Today, I was invited to attend a baby shower, however, against my own will. And because I say against my own will, because I had entrusted upon my better judgment that on the behalf of this particular individual, and I'm not going to get into the specifics of the details, but this person I'd done a particular favor for to show up to, on the behalf of her and her family, because no one else at the time was willing to go, and I decided to go. And considering that this is actually would have been my second time in my life actually attending a baby shower, I have this particular sinking feeling every time that I attend one of the baby showers, where it's ultimately a feeling of sinking depression, defeat. A depression that engulfs you so much down to the core where you utterly feel as if the void of nothingness, the realm of the emptiness, is so much more bittersweet. You find that in the darkest place, in the crevice of your own soul, that whatever you find in the description of light that exists inside of yourself, in darkness, I consider it as a formidable, an ally of mine, not so much of an enemy. I find that the purest blackness is actually considered as my greatest ally, comrade, my dearest of friends. And it's defeating to me, considering that I realize as human beings, as people, each one of us are born into the world with this divine light, purest soul made of innocence, a light that radiates, a light that represents innocence. You're born into this world. As the older you become more enslaved. You start to wear blindfolds, and you start to begin, to believe in misconceptions. You are fed lies as you are raised throughout the testament of time within the educational systems. You find yourself to be submerged deep inside of the world of emptiness, and such an emptiness that it's not so much in particular inviting, it's more forced against your will, and it represents evil. And I believe in evil. I am an embodiment of both light and blackness. However, this particular blackness and darkness, this embodiment, representation of evil, is in itself inescapable. It's inescapable to the point where you face the inevitable. And this establishment, this foundation within yourself, it corrupts you for who you are. And I find that it's depressing to me, because you see so many of children and babies, being born into the world, only to find that their light is given only a short, limited amount of time. There's an expiration date. And I'm not speaking in regards to an expiration date as in death, but in such a way that you're ultimately, inevitably, unfortunately, corrupted since birth. And you find yourself in a sea, to be drowning inside of this numbness. The older you become, the more you see the foreshadowing of the world corruption. You see that your entire reality, the infrastructure of your world that you have worked so hard to build towards, is, your morality and your compass. You might sustain yourself for a while, and then again, the ultimate, the inevitable creeps in, where you find yourself corrupted. You find yourself to be corrupted. You find yourself digging deeper inside of this world, and you start to make sense of it. You start to articulate this thought process and this consciousness that is of your own, you begin to manifest and unfold. You constantly have a way to, after a while, experience an awakening. The deeper you travel inside of this matrix, you find yourself to unraveling a deeper mysticism of truth. Truth, facts, in which, well, the world does not want you to realize, to see. Therefore, once that you do break outside and free from the enslavement of the matrix, from the reality in which that you are lied to, that wool that was pulled over your eyes throughout your entire life, you start to remove a lot of the misconceptions, false preconceived notions, the corruptions. You start to manifest and unfold before your eyes a world deeper, a world beyond your understanding, your comprehension. Our comprehension as human beings is so limited. We can only comprehend and understand so much in the vastness of the world around us. There's a Milky Way and a galaxy among the infinite stars that is so limitless that it's surreal. And so many people have no understanding of what the light and what the stars represent. You see that we start to unveil, unravel, unearth, to remove the blindfolds. We detoxify our entire system. We purify ourselves. We experience our cleansing. You remove not only the misconceptions, like I said, but you also remove a false compass of so-called morality, principles, these so-called values. Then you find yourself to be integrated into becoming, as the older you become, into the vessel and to shape your own body, your own consciousness for your mind, your spiritual development, your evolution. If you should decide to go down deeper down into the rabbit hole of the occult, of alchemy, of spirituality, whatever you want to practice, you know, we are all embodied as one and the same. It doesn't matter what particular witchcraft you belong to. It doesn't matter what coven you belong to or what have you. We are systematically drowning and rising beneath these oceans and above these particular oceans every day of our lives, together as one and the same. And you find yourself that the more you are alive, the deeper truths unveil itself, and it becomes so much more depressing, you know. And I sometimes think about this. I sometimes reflect this in a deeper sense of my consciousness, where I feel as if the more that I'm alive, the more that it hurts to breathe the air. You find yourself as a human being that you are irrelevant, you are insignificant. But then again, when you try your best to change the world as I have continued to aspire myself to do, and how I push myself beyond the limitations every day of my life and of your life, you begin to understand of how vilified you become, of how distorted other people's perception about you becomes not your reality, but their reality. And you find that by doing so, you are vilified, you are villainized, you are dehumanized, you are demonized. You are carried throughout the oceans of time and with the currents of the wind, of the air, of misconceptions. You have this whirlwind of a tornado just completely engulfing who you are and what you're supposed to be, you know. I sometimes, on certain days, I feel bad for the world. I feel horrible and regretful and sorrow for and despair for the world of people who have to be alive to be on this planet. I feel horrible for the people that have to live inside of a world and reality of their own that has consisted of so much misconceptions and lies. And I feel so horrible for a lot of the children being brought into the world in these unprecedented times, in these times of chaos and anarchy and what have you, you know, all the world corruption that's unfolding, you know, the wars, the civil wars of all these different topics going on and controversy, and it's not a optimistic thing in the slightest. However, the world, as we are inside of the age of Aquarius, we are shifting towards a gradual progression of conscious awakening and of change, inevitable changes that humanity in itself cannot prolong it. It cannot stop it. And all that we could do is just go along for the ride, try to make the world a better place, and be that contribution and champions of change, and be that voice of reason, and instill that particular light into the world. And by doing so, only then have we risen, have we truly awakened, have we ascended beyond our understanding. And as starseeds, I like to see more of us to come together. Unfortunately, there's not enough people in the world that think outside of the box, to challenge their own consciousness, to question everything around them, and let alone, you know, your neighbors, your friends, family. And people have this me familia mentality where it's very selfish minded, and people don't care about what's happening in the rest of the world for as long as they stay locked and quarantined up inside of their houses. And these people, they always have this defeatist mentality. They always say, well, it's not affecting my life, so why should I worry about it? Why should I worry about the stray dogs, the animals running out around on the streets, the homeless, the rate of homelessness, you know, the world corruption that's happening around them every single day of their lives. And they have no implications of care or sympathy or empathy in the world, and they're absolutely emotionally numb to it. You know, they could honestly care less for it. But these are the people that consist of 90% of the world population, from my understanding and from resources during investigations of studying behavioral psychology and psychology of mankind. But there's so many people in the world who are absolutely selfish minded, who care only about themselves, and they have absolutely no sympathy of understanding and the actions to take to make the world around them a better place, and of reality around them a better place. We stay fixated upon our own lives, daily lives, and people talk about of how quote-unquote busy they are in their schedule, but in retrospect, there's no such thing. It's almost non-existent to being as busy as you are, to not stay in contact with friends, family, you know, coworkers, what have you, people that are absolutely relevant to you. And as a matter of fact, I believe everyone in the world, despite me being a misanthropic and a nihilist, that everyone should be relevant. I don't believe in people being insignificant or irrelevant. You know, we each to our own sacred divine purpose that we have in our lives. And not just in a much spiritual perspective or sense, but we all have our own lives that we have to attend to, obviously. But then again, you should never be quote-unquote busy enough in your time, in your life, to try to make the world a better place, to make your communities more of a safer environment. And thus, you know, I am myself a neighborhood watch, and I am absolutely proud of it. Right now I'm getting my car turning into a patrol car, and I take it out on the streets every day of my life to actually do something about it. And I'm not one of these people to just sit around behind a computer or in their daily lives in nonchalant existence, their vapid, jaded, meaningless existences, to complain about societal issues, but I actually encompass and I actually do something about it. And that's a whole different gratification in itself. to be that part of change in the world, and not just be somebody to complain about societal injustices and issues, but to be out there and actually do something about it. And it absolutely disgusts me when there's so many of these hypocrites and contradictive people who talk about, you know, they want to change the world, they want to do this for their community, but I don't see anybody doing anything about it. I don't see anybody else but me. So who am I going to lose to, right? So, to my businesses, to everything, to my own success, to everything that I've worked hard and strived for, you know, I've had to do it all upon myself. And I've had like 1 or 2 people perhaps kind of more or less help me along the way, more along the lines being a moral support than anything else. But in retrospect, I make my own money. And that's what you have to ultimately do. You have to be one to pick up the sword to continue to manifest. You have to manifest yourself in your life, and to be one to explore, to navigate the deeper mysticism of life in itself, of existence. Because truth be told, there's no one else in the universe that's going to help you to find and navigate your journey for you. That is solely upon the responsibility of yourself, that you have to be the one to find your own purpose, to find your own sanctuary, and to find balance, to find duality.